COVID to do it, and vaccines and
What? What? They're using the vaccines to divide us? Oh my god, look at those fucking cuffs, dude. Like, what the hell are you wearing, bro? Look at those cuffs, dog. Like, what? Are you stupid, bro?
kind of thing that to do it. And our push here at this show is don't blame your neighbor for the pain you're experiencing because of COVID or the COVID lockdowns or policies, but keep your eye on the oligarchy. And so in that spirit, we had Max Blumenthal on, and we were talking about
the gray zone. Is it true that the gray zone is funded by China, or is that BS?
People who are so I've been injured from the jab, and so which I have to now live with, and who knows for how long, maybe the rest of my life. But we were talking about people who were punching down or shaming people for talking about their bad reactions to the jab, and Max Blumenthal said this.
I saw Graham Elwood do that a few days ago on Twitter. Someone talking about being injured by the vaccine and him just mocking them. Just what like that is one of the saddest things to witness, is to see people getting mocked and attacked and ostracized because they have the temerity, they dare to say that they were injured by one of these vaccines. I mean, it's happened to some people.
Injured by one of these vaccines? What does injured mean in this scenario? What are you talking about, like chills and stuff like that? The thing is it's honestly dangerous even just to talk about, like, it's to the point where it's even dangerous just to talk about mild symptoms of something, of the COVID vax, just because it gets misused and misinterpreted. So you have to be very careful and make sure that you're being clear in what you're saying, because if you're not too clear, what you say can be used against you in terms like, oh, this is why I'm not taking the vax because they got chills after they took the vaccine, when it's like that's normal for some people, but still for most people it's still not going to happen. But what does injured mean? But also there's something called the nocebo effect. I doubt almost any of you guys know what the nocebo is. I only learned about it very recently, so it's not like I've known it for a long time either. But a nocebo effect is the opposite of the placebo. So the placebo is when you get something fake and you report good feelings, good results, but it wasn't real, like a sugar pill cured your knee pain or something like that. Nocebo is the exact opposite. So you get a fake pill, but you actually report bad symptoms from it. So you got like some kind of fake pill that's just sugar or it's nothing, but you're saying it makes your knee pain worse or your balls are exploding or something like that. So it's giving fake, it's giving negative reactions to something that's not real. And so that's going to happen to a lot of people, especially because of all of the talk of the quote-unquote side effects. So all you're going to be thinking about is side effects. And a lot of these things can be caused by anxiety alone. So if you're anxious enough, honestly, like you can cause yourself a lot of harm just by simply being anxious. You can start to feel cold and be like, oh man, am I getting sick? Am I having the chills? But it's like, really, if you just calm down, relax, chill, you'd be fine. Okay, stop taking in deep breaths. It's just going to be a situation where you're going to have to keep breathing out even more. So, you know, that's one of those things.
At first, in Max's defense, that does happen all the time. People have mocked me.
Rightfully so, dude. You're a fucking liar.
Call me a liar. People call me an anti-vaxxer. People call me all kinds of things. Of course, we know what happened to Eric. What is his name? Eric Clapton. We saw what happened.
Who?
All of a sudden, he became a pariah and a racist and everything. And so I want to get that does happen. But here's what Graham said. So I wanted just to be clear. This is what Graham said. So the woman said, I did the shot for the greater good, then got a mini stroke from Moderna and have found out the most of the left is blind to vaccine injuries and the rest have no sympathy.
Dude, you have literally no evidence that you got a fucking mini stroke from Moderna, dude. I can't believe this fuck would even post this shit on his channel. Dude, you literally have no evidence that gave you a mini stroke. Anything could have given you a mini stroke There's no evidence that the Moderna vaccine gave you a mini stroke. I don't even know how that's possible. Obviously, it's not. There's no evidence that something like that can happen. So how are you going to prove to me that that was what caused that? That's a huge assertion to make.
So that's what she said. And Graham said,
vaccine injuries. Like, this is so fucking stupid, dude. Holy shit. How does anyone watch this garbage ass channel? Holy fuck.
This is what
an idiot.
Said. So get rid of any medication that someone has had an adverse reaction, or outlaw zinc, as my ex-wife is allergic to it. If we didn't have the vaccine and did herd immunity, over 2 million would be dead. All medicine is bad, no gray area. Now, Graham, that doesn't seem like you were mocking her. That seems like you were making arguments. And they may...
I'm gonna mock. That's the thing. I'm not even... You can accept... What? So he's accepting the premise that she got a mini stroke from the Moderna vaccine. There is no evidence that she got a mini stroke from the Moderna vaccine, and that is a really, really strong, extreme assertion that you're making. And with any sort of strong assertion that you're making, you got to provide strong evidence for that assertion.
Maybe they were sarcastic arguments, maybe, but so I would like to clear up the record, and I wasn't aware of what the thing said, and I didn't want to make a bigger deal out of it when it happened on the show. I didn't want to, go look up the tweet and all that stuff. So anyway, so there it is, and now we're going to go over this, and I'm going to point out all the things I think are wrong about this tweet, but I wouldn't. That is you. Just
did Jimmy Dore dye his hair again?
Having a debate, I think. So I will. So go ahead. I'll throw it to you.
Okay. Yeah. And so I appreciate you having me on the show, because one of the things I remember when Kyle Kalinske just made videos about you, I said on my show, I said he's a coward for not calling Jimmy up. If you're real friends, you call him up. I called you up when I finally saw this and was like, what the hell? I was a little mad. I don't know Blumenthal, and I'm he goes, it's such a, whatever he said, it's a sad state. Well, it's a sad state, Blumenthal, that you did to me what people have done to you. You didn't read the tweet. You said I said things I didn't say. I didn't write, I didn't write any of that. First of all, I don't know this woman. I don't know who she is. I'm not saying she's a liar. I'm saying I don't know, and she's purporting stuff out there that the vaccine gave me a stroke. I don't know. Is that what her doctor said? Have they studied this information? Does she have a pre-existing condition? We don't know any of these things.
No, anytime you make a huge assertion like that, you can call someone a liar if they don't provide sufficient evidence. And in this situation, making an extreme assertion like that, dude, it's like if I say I had a unicorn, it's basically the same level of assertion. Me having a unicorn and that the Moderna vaccine caused a mini stroke. If I don't provide you with any evidence, you can call me a liar.
Maybe I'm guilty of not saying at the very top, I'm sorry that happened to you, which I am. I have mocked nobody that's had any sort of...
What is that background, by the way?
Adverse
Star Trek?
effect to the vaccine. Not at all. And then I just ask questions, because this is the thing the problem we're having is it's just getting into this absolutism. And you're either pro-vaccine or you're pro-ivermectin. And America is so easily divided and propagandized that now we have to pick these teams. And that's not what I said. So I even did a little more investigating, obviously more than Max Blumenthal said. And I want to find, she's a part of some Twitter feed. This was turned on to me by Tina Desiree, who's at Status Quo. And I just want to show you these other tweets that are in this group. Again, I don't know these people. I'm not saying anything. But wait, this is one right here.
Did they do an actual debate or no? Is this an actual debate or is he just reviewing a video? I'm confused. I thought this was a real debate.
Just to make it clear, Brooke had a condition that left her more vulnerable to clotting. After she got vaccinated, she had clotting. She blames it on the vaccine, not the condition, without evidence. Okay, I don't even know if that's true. But that's what was said in this thread that these people are, including this woman, Brooke, who I do not know. Then this gentleman said this: I'm sorry about her situation, but when she goes and spreads vax denial and misinformation, it's still a big problem. Side effects are a part of medicine. If you have side effects from vaccines, don't take them, but don't come on here and start spreading Fox News propaganda. Again, that's that guy's opinion, not mine. My point in bringing those up is that there's some disparity in what she's saying, and this is my point. When I hear about people having adverse reactions to vaccines. Well, again, I bring this up because when I was married, my wife was starting to come down with a cold. I always take Zicam, right? It works wonders on me. I know so many people, it shortens the cold. She went into anaphylactic shock. It was terrifying. We had to, and from that point forward, we had to keep Benadryl in the house, and she could never have zinc. Now, my point that I was making, because everyone on Twitter just flips out, and then all these people piled on me, all these so-called lefties. This is and we're going to get into a bigger discussion, I hope, about this, like, who's the real left thing. Who have been.
So even he notices that. He's like, oh shit. So this is Jimmy Dore's grift. If you don't know, his grift is like, I'm the real lefty. I'm the true lefty. TYT, Seltzer Talk, all these guys, David Pockman, like, these guys are the fake lefties. I'm the real lefty. Get down on your knees and suck my cock and swallow everything that comes out of it, because I am the lefty god. I am the only leftist. And so that's his whole grift, essentially. But it's not just him. There's a bunch of people that do that.
And attacked. Jen just piled on and said, oh, I can't believe Graham would say that. Even Fiorella from the Convo Couch said that. And I was like, you got to be kidding me. You guys are all doing the thing that has been done to you.
She's a lunatic, by the way. She's an idiot.
And you think you're so much more
Complete
woke
idiot.
and open-minded when, in fact, you're all just having the same human reaction of, you disagree with me, shut up, wrong. I'm going to put words into your mouth. I mean, this happened to me in July by big-name lefty activists.
Yeah.
When I put out the tweet, people have the right to not take the vaccine, live performers. This is when Ron and I were planning our tour, most of which got canceled. And I said, people have the right to not take the vaccine. Live performers who stand on stage in front of hundreds and thousands of people and take photos with them afterwards have the right to ask for proof of vaccine or test. Our bodies, our choice. An implied third choice in there that I didn't write is you also don't have to come. And I got attacked. Vanessa Beeley, who I've had on my show, who's done a lot of fine work on Syria, she acted like she literally said, you're making Goebbels laugh from his grave. So I'm making a dead Nazi laugh.
Oh my God.
And so it's appalling to me that the left acts just as crazy as the Hill bots.
Oh my God. The quote unquote left.
I mean, I'm starting to watch, and Max Kaiser on your show the other day called us the lockdown left.
The lockdown
So yeah, we love lockdowns. I love authoritarianism.
Yo, they're making these nicknames that these fuckers make is hilarious. Up until today, I had never heard of the phrase vaccine injury. And now I'm hearing the lockdown left. It's almost like, I don't know, David Pockman's The Leninist Left was also hilarious.
I'm living in this castle that's paid for by Big Pharma, and I love wearing a mask. I'm so glad my tour got canceled. Man, I love losing money. It's so great losing money. And I just, like, he then does the same thing.
Props to Graham Elwood for this, by the way. Much respect to him.
This is a kind of you want to debate.
He's really standing up for himself too. Jimmy George out here
about the issues of mandates and lockdowns. That's fine, but I have a right to say I want to feel safe in a venue. And you're like, well, that's fake science. Oh, well, I don't think that it is, and neither do a majority of doctors and scientists. And so this is the problem I'm having, and we can get into the further discussions about the mandates.
I just noticed that Graham, he has like a widow's peak like Vegeta from Dragon Ball Z.
And the vaccine and stuff like this. But if the statistics were overwhelming that people were having bad reactions to vaccines, then I'd be like, this is a bad idea. But it's not. And again, people can have bad reactions to zinc, to anything else. I mean, penicillin...
They also... When you take the vaccine, they make you stay there for 15 minutes in case you go into like anaphylactic shock or you have any kind of issue. And so that rule is put in place so that you can get help if you start going into anaphylactic shock or some kind of bad reaction.
Look how penicillin has helped the world. I mean, it has transformed the world for decades, and there's still people who can't take it because that's how medicine in the human body works. It's still an evolving science, and we should have discussions and debates, but we can't do that anymore. So now I'm a pro-Nazi I guess I love Nazis and big pharma, and
he's the leader of the lockdown left. All hail Graham Elwood,
you're
the
an
leader of the
anti-vax
lockdown
Trumper.
left.
So that's okay. Fuck off. Have a great day, Jimmy. The conversation's over.
Okay, Graham. Thanks for coming on, and I hope we cleared it up. I think we got shit cleared up. I appreciate you name checking 3 more fucking people that I'm now gonna have to have emails with. Jesus Christ.
I'm just quoting.
Don't name anyone else. Then I gotta go look. Just don't name anyone. Stop naming. Just say this person said this, but don't say who the person, because then I gotta fucking do what I'm doing now. You know what I mean, right?
All right, fair enough.
You know what I mean.
Those losers are gonna be blowing Jimmy Dore up in his emails. Oh, why'd you let Graham Elwood say this? Oh my God, you're part of the big pharma lockdown left, and he doesn't want to lose his credibility amongst those lunatics. So he doesn't want to deal with that.
I mean, if they're, especially if they're friends of the show and stuff like that and blah, blah, blah. So, now, again, I don't know. I would have to go back and check everything that you just said. I don't know if they said. I got to go look at their... So, I don't know.
All he knows is about those damn cufflinks, bro. Shout out to those Jimmy Dore cufflinks right there, dude.
I thought you were pro-mandate.
I'm in favor of most of these mandates. Some of the times the government overreaches for sure, but for the most part, I see that mandates, they seem like they've worked to me. And I follow a fair amount of doctors and scientists that are like, hey, the mandates have worked. And this is an ever evolving situation. This is a once in 100-year pandemic. But I'm not a doctor. There's a thread, and I can show it to you as we get into it, of people that are super critical, doctors, the
Joe Rogan doctors,
infectious disease scientists who are super critical. They're like, Biden hasn't done enough. So
those are the doctors he's talking about.
When mandates, and then when people just say all mandates, I'm sorry, when I get told all mandates are authoritarian, well, then that's when I started making TikTok videos poking all the holes in that. Because, Jimmy, Medicare for all is a mandate. A Green New Deal is a mandate. You know what we're going to do? We're going to mandate that you stop working at an oil refinery, and we're going to take that job, where the government's going to take that job away and pay you to move into green energy.
Damn, he's turning it around on them, dude. The lockdown left is now making a turn.
That's a mandate. So all mandates are bad. I mean, and then I keep hearing this who's the true lefty thing, and that's disconcerting to me.
Dude, there's not even a question. It's Jimmy Dore, okay? Everybody knows Jimmy Dore is the real leftist, okay? Nobody but Jimmy Dore is a true leftist, okay? So make sure to go to his Patreon page and donate all of your money. Give him your house, okay? Because he's the one true lefty.
Okay, I would say there's a big difference between a governmental policy about where we're gonna how we're gonna fight climate change and forcing someone to take a medical treatment that we all know has side effects and adverse effects, and we don't know what the long-term effects are, and it is emergency use, and so
it's not emergency use. That's not true. It has its full. The FDA already gave its full approval. That's not true, and there's no reason why there would be long-term effects of this vaccine.
So that would be totally different.
That's something I noticed people saying about just anything. Psh, but what are the long-term effects, bro?
And so let me.
In 20 years, your balls are gonna explode.
Go ahead.
Can I just say?
The clock is ticking.
That's your opinion. Why you think it's different? See, my opinion is that. I mean, part of the thing when everyone is like, "Oh, how can you be this and be a lefty?" I thought the left was about the greater good. See, I think the research that I watch, and I'm not a doctor or scientist, but the overwhelming amount, like, you cannot trust big pharma. Is big pharma corrupt? Absolutely. But most of the vax science is pretty sound from what I'm seeing. Again, I'm not qualified to say a doctor knows what they're talking about or not. Only another.
No, but he's qualified because what he's saying, this is the thing that I notice with people and their response to people who are being pro-vaccine or whatever it is. Whenever I tell you that, the vaccine is good or whatever, like, it's not like I'm giving you my opinion I'm not an expert. What I'm doing is I'm relaying the information of the experts to you. So I'm just telling you what the scientific experts are saying. So he is qualified in that he's relaying that information to you. It's not like Graham Elwood's information. It's the scientific community's information that he is then relaying to people.
And that's how science works. Science collects data.
So they try to lie and do all that stuff like, oh, well, you're not an expert. It's like, yeah, no shit. I'm telling you what the experts are saying.
They got to go through studies. They got to hash it out amongst themselves. So, I think if we had a 90% vaccination rate, I wouldn't have had to cancel the tour.
So I
think
would
still be working.
So I think that's a great jumping off point for me.
Okay.
So
here comes his
I'm going to
doctored
tell
photos.
you why
Here come his doctored photos that his producer accidentally doctored.
I disagree with what he just said about 90. If we got to 90% vaccination rate, and why I think I think it's that kind of wrong science that is fueling a lot of the animosity people have towards each other. So I think a lot of people are thinking if these asshole people would just get vaccinated, we could get out of this faster and we could go back to our normal life, which is what I thought too, which is why I got vaccinated. But now I'm finding out that vaccinated or not, everyone is likely to get COVID-19 at some point. Okay, so you get
So COVID-19, if you get it when you're vaccinated, is essentially just a cold. So the protocols you have to go through if you catch COVID when you're vaccinated are much lower. But your odds of getting COVID-19 when vaccinated are very, very much lower.
to get it likely whether you're vaxxed or not. Sit down, brace yourself. This is from
Who even is this, by the way? Who's saying this? Who is this? Who is this?
the
Orange County Register? Is that a conservative website?
Register. We're all
It's
going
Orange County, so that's what it sounds
to
like
get
to me.
COVID-19 even if we're fully vaccinated. The idea that we're going to live our lives without ever getting it is a fantasy and a dangerous one, said Andrew Neumer, an epidemiologist and demographer at UC Irvine. A lot of people just don't understand that. We're all going to get it. Dr. Bruce Patterson, a virologist and CEO, counts himself among the 90% of infectious disease and virology experts who believe COVID will become endemic, meaning it will hang around indefinitely like the flu. COVID is here to stay. We're not going to eradicate it. 10 years from now, there's still going to be COVID, Dr. Neumer said. In fact, the WHO says it won't ever be eradicated. Global health experts expect COVID-19 to circulate and mutate in a similar way to the flu, so that means it will be here forever. And even Joe Biden's director of COVID response, former, said that given Delta's contagiousness, now we have Omicron, which is way more contagious, the fitness of the future mutations in order to beat it, this means SARS-CoV-2 will be contagious enough that everyone will get the virus. So we're all going to get the virus. And what we tell people here, if you feel like you are vulnerable to the virus, you should get vaccinated. And because it will prevent you from serious disease or illness most of the time, not all the time. So that's what we tell
Like 90+% of the time.
people. Now, the big reason the only reason I can see why you would want someone else to get vaccinated is because you would think we could vaccinate our way out of this pandemic, and we can't. Now everyone agrees with that now.
You can vaccinate your way out.
That's what
Because if everybody gets vaccinated, the COVID-19 diagnosis that you're going to get, what the symptoms that you're going to get from it are going to be so low that the actual effective impact of people catching coronavirus will be nothing. So effectively, you still are going to vaccinate your way out of coronavirus. If everybody's vaccinated and they get the sniffles from coronavirus, well, you've succeeded. You vaccinated your way out of it. Then it doesn't matter if you catch coronavirus. But if people are catching coronavirus unvaccinated, going to the hospitals, overrunning the hospitals, refusing to get vaccinated, trying to go to events and stuff like that, that's a totally different story.
Dr. Robert Malone said on this show.
And unfortunately, the U.S. only, 60% fully vaccinated, so it's not even close to 90, unfortunately.
A couple of months ago when he said
80,
you can't vaccinate your way out of a pandemic like this, and you can't do it with a leaky vaccine. And what does a leaky vaccine mean? That means that even if you get vaccinated, you can still transmit the virus and you can still contract it. And in fact, this is what the FDA says. This is from November 21st, last time I looked it up. It says, does the vaccine stop the spread of the disease? It says most vaccines that protect from viral illnesses also reduce transmission of the virus that causes the disease by those who are vaccinated. While it is hoped this will be the case, the scientific community does not yet know if the Pfizer-BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine will reduce such transmission, and that's from the FDA.gov. So if you're going to get the virus anyway, we're all going to get it, and it doesn't stop transmission according to the FDA, although YouTube makes me say...
They're saying that they don't know yet. They're not saying that it doesn't stop transmission. That's, again, a just complete misrepresentation of what's being said. If anything, it's more likely that most vaccines that protect from viral illness or reducing the transmission of the virus by those who are vaccinated, that would mean that it's more likely it's not going to. But obviously, if you have like 70 to 90% protection against catching it, like, you're going to spread it less if you don't have it. Really, the misrepresentation that anti-vaxxers say is that the spread between somebody who is vaccinated and infected is the same as someone who's unvaccinated and infected. But that doesn't really mean anything because the vaccines prevents like 70 to 90% of infections, infectious potential. So you have like 70 to 90% protection. Now it's going down with the Omicron variant, but obviously it's way weaker. So
that it does reduce transmission, even though this is what the FDA says. So just so you know, YouTube says it does reduce. But I'll give YouTube that. It does reduce. But we're all going to get it anyway. So no one denies that we're likely to all get it anyway, and that it's going to be endemic, meaning forever. And an adult gets the flu twice every 10 years. So we'll probably be getting it like that. So that would...
There's flu boosters every year.
Be why scientifically I'm totally against mandates. I'm not against the vaccine. And
that's such bullshit. He's not against the vaccine, but he just says a bunch of stuff against it. But he's not anti-vaccine. He's vaccinated. So, even he's coming out and being against it.
If you feel like if vulnerable populations should all be was out, once Robert Malone explained that on this show, that you can't vaccinate your way out of it. And
you can.
The most vaccinated...
You can definitely vaccinate your way out of it.
Countries on Earth are having some of the biggest virus outbreaks, right?
Yeah, COVID spikes. Again, COVID cases doesn't mean shit, because what ends up happening with these COVID cases is it's just, it'll be either it's unvaccinated people who are catching it, or, it's vaccinated people who are catching it, but it's the sniffles. So it's no difference. So COVID cases doesn't really mean, it literally means nothing. It's getting to the point now, even where a lot of the breakthrough cases don't really mean anything, because it's not like, the vaccine is doing its job in boosting the immune system to protect from any sort of severe illness. So that's just not true. It's just a misrepresentation, obviously. Case spikes, they don't mean shit.
I can't think of that.
Also, like, a lot of those kinds of studies and stuff like that will end up oversampling vaccinated people. So it also ends up skewing results in terms of efficacy numbers.
That country that just canceled Christmas. They're 100% vaccinated, and they just canceled Christmas. We saw what happened with Iceland. Same thing. Israel, they had huge outbreaks. So, and they call them breakthrough cases, which other people just call them cases. So if the vaccine, if you could still get it, still transmit it, and we're all gonna get it, and you can also get protection if you natural immunity once you get it, because tens of millions of people have already had it in the United States, and now they have natural immunity. And
why would you want people to get natural immunity instead of getting the vaccine?
They're saying if you get it, so
it also runs out too.
If you can get all those things, I don't think you should be able to mandate a vaccine that's super authoritarian. And I also believe lockdowns are authoritarian. But I'll stop there, and we'll get to lockdowns later. But you can respond to what I just said.
Everything Jimmy Dore just said there was just complete bullshit. You can absolutely vaccinate your way out of the COVID pandemic. If you get everybody vaccinated and everybody catching it is having the sniffles, you don't have hospitals being overrun, you have public events being just fine. And it gets to the point where if the symptoms are so weak, then it doesn't really matter if you're catching coronavirus. You know what I mean? Like, it's so weak now. The vaccine has done its job. That's exactly what you want to vaccinate it out of. Vaccinating it out doesn't mean like, oh, nobody's ever going to catch it. It means we can get to a point where COVID means nothing, which is what the vaccine is taking us. So everything Jimmy Dore just said was bullshit, just lies, misrepresented in every way possible.
Absolutely.
He just lied his ass off.
Yeah,
in every way possible.
Points here. The thing, this is there's several issues that I've heard. Again, other virologists say, if we would have vaccinated like the whole world, this is part of the problem too. Is there's vaccine apartheid, right? So the pharmaceutical companies can't make any money in third world countries because the third world countries can't really pay for it, or they got to pay it at a discount price or whatever. So
from what I read, it seems that it was actually vaccine hesitancy rather than there not being enough vaccines in areas like Africa.
One of the things is that I've been told, again, I'm not a scientist, neither are you, is that the more
yeah, but Jimmy Dore is like Einstein. He knows everything. You see all those sources he brought up about science? He definitely knows his shit, dude. Natural immunity is goated.
Vaccinated people, the easier it is for the virus to spread and mutate and become more dangerous. Okay, so there's that. The other thing I have not heard from you today or on any of the shows I can't say I've watched everything you put out there, and this is a problem I'm having with some of the anti-mandate crowd, well, the majority of the anti-mandate crowd, there's no mention of hospitalizations. So in August and in September, all over the country, but in Hawaii where I live, we were maxed out. And with COVID patients,
even now hospitals are being overrun. I don't know why the news doesn't cover it, but there's still thousands of people dying every day in the U.S. from coronavirus. So it's a bunch of unvaccinated people just stuffing the hospitals.
10% of the COVID patients that were in the hospital were unvaccinated. There was an accident between a school bus and a truck, and the school bus was empty. And the head of the Queen's Hospital here in Oahu said, if there was children on that bus, we would not have been able to handle it. And there's all these instances of people, and these aren't tracked in the 800,000 people that have died because they had an adverse reaction to COVID. I don't hear the mandate crowd talking about the 800,000 dead people. We're also not talking about all the people that couldn't get into a hospital because it was full. And then I watch on a lot of social media. I follow a lot of just healthcare workers, and especially in August and September, and I'm worried it's going to happen again. They're just in their cars making TikToks going, everybody's dying, and if we were more vaccinated, the hospitals wouldn't be full. So when the hospitals are full with unvaccinated COVID patients, Jimmy, if you have a stroke, a heart attack, God forbid you were Steph, get injured, heart attack, whatever, car accident, they might not have bed space for you. And that's where I'm mad at the anti-mandate left, because I thought the left was about we're all in this together. I'm pretty healthy. Maybe I could get COVID and not have any reaction to it. Although I just heard of a healthy person in my yoga class who surfed, never great shape, got COVID, and she just passed away. So my point is, I got it because I was like, well, I don't want to spread it to anybody, because maybe I would get it because I'm healthy. There's some studies, and I can't verify these studies, but I've heard some studies that like vegetarians and vegans are less likely to have severe effects or less likely to get hospitalized. I don't know. Let's get more data. 78% of COVID deaths are people that are overweight. All right, let's get more data. But the hospitalizations, I never hear anybody in the anti-mandate side talk about that, and that's terrifying.
Okay, so that's your argument. So one of your arguments for pro-mandate is hospital space.
Yes.
So
then in a second, we'll get to it. We're going to get to if you want to address that, that's fine.
Yeah, I don't want to mix too many things because we already talked about viral escape that I have to get to and the numbers. But so
they should be making one assertion at a time and then adjudicating it.
I want to clarify. You're saying that is one of your arguments to be pro-mandate.
It's kind of like a Gish Gallop battle.
It's because the people get COVID and then they clog up the ICUs and we don't have enough beds, right?
Correct.
Okay. So there's a lot to say about that. I say the hospitalization rate of COVID is 0.89%. So that includes the obese, that includes people with comorbidities, that includes the elderly. So the hospitalization rate of people who catch COVID is 0.89%. That's a fact. So it's less than 1%. And now with Omicron
So whenever you have something that's as transmissible as coronavirus, if it's 0.89% hospitalization rate, but like millions of people are catching it, there's not really that much room in ICUs, period. I don't know how many beds are in each ICU, but there really aren't that many. So it's going to overrun it. So I don't really know what that has to do with anything. The hospitals are still going to be overrun. I don't understand the point of what that percentage is. Anytime you have very high transmissibility, it's not going to be like a super crazy, like 30, 40, 50% death rate.
Let me find that. This is going to be interesting. So, Omicron, they say, has an 80% lower risk of hospitalization. So,
that's great.
Let me finish. So,
can I just interject this real quick?
Okay.
I'm not trying to win. I'm not trying to say I'm right. I'm for whatever is going to actually work.
Right, me too.
I don't want Omicron to be bad and the hospitals are full so I can say I told you so.
I know.
I hope Omicron is like a sneeze. But I'm sorry, go ahead.
Okay. So if you have a 0.89% hospitalization rate and you 80% less is 0.71%. So the hospitalization rate for Omicron could be...
He's doing his own mathematics and then posting photos of this. Oh, boy.
Is projected to be
but this hospitalization rate, and this is a good thing about Omicron. I'm glad that the hospitalization rate is low. But I don't know what the hospitalization rate is for people who are unvaccinated. But obviously, this is a good thing.
8%. If this is true, that's true. Okay? And... here it is. The WHO says vaccine booster programs will prolong COVID crisis. No country can boost its way out of this pandemic. So it's unconscionable to me that you would force someone to take a medical treatment that you know is going to have a side effects to a certain amount of people.
What side effects and to who?
A certain amount of people are going to get myocarditis. How many? Well, let's look. I got it right here. So they're stopping using. So that's. Before I can move on to another thing. So that's my response to the bed thing. We have a 0.89%.
So what is the response to the bed thing? I don't understand what the response is. Is the response look at how low the hospitalization rate is? I don't understand how that's a rebuttal in any way. The hospitalization rate is X. It's very low, therefore, what? What is your rebuttal? I'm not understanding what the response is. There's a low hospitalization rate, but the hospitals are still being overfilled. So I'm not really understanding what the rebuttal here is. What is the response? I don't understand.
Hospitalization rate.
I don't get it.
And the Omicron.
And if obviously, like, you have that hospitalization rate, hospitals being overflowed, obviously people who are having other issues won't be able to get access. So I don't understand I don't know what the rebuttal is.
Is going to be even lower. And if we don't have enough hospital beds to help out the richest country in the world during a pandemic, maybe we need to have some redundancy and stop letting hedge fund managers staff our fucking hospitals. They've been closing hospitals. They went from 73,000 hospital beds in New York State to 43,000 in 20 years. That is backwards. And so we know what's going on. And if this was about, so I want to deal with that. So that's the hospitalization rate. And people say, oh, you're going to clog it up. Well, who gets to go into the ICU? What if you're a smoker? Do you get to go into the ICU if you need a lung transplant? If you're obese? If you eat too much sugar? If you're an alcoholic? Hey, if you're a drunk driver, do you get to get that ICU bed? So if you're a rock climber, do you get that ICU bed if you fall? So this whole idea that we're going to start now having a list of risky behaviors that's going to make me angry at you for needing a hospital bed. That's just propaganda. That's how I see it. That is propaganda from the establishment that has a money motivation behind it. It's money motivation to get rid of the hospital beds, and it's money motivation for
This is something like the hospitalization can be prevented by the vaccine, so I don't know what you mean. And who is spreading this propaganda? The only people I've really seen bring this up I haven't seen any, like, whatever oligarchs or whatever he's talking about. I don't know.
To get the vaccine. And again, I'm
haven't
not
seen, like,
saying
the
don't get. I'm
WHO
saying
said
you,
it.
to force someone to get a vaccine that we know there's going to be side effects. Let me just make this point. So here it is. Item of interest. The NIH is funding a study to assess the potential side effects of vaccinations on women's menstruation. That was August 30th. That's a year-long study. We're not going to know the results of that study for a year. How can you force someone to get a mandate on shit that they don't even know about and it hasn't been fully studied? That's right there. And now they're trying to take these away from people because they're getting hurt so often. Sweden, Denmark, they paused Moderna's jab. Iceland joins Sweden and Denmark and pause the jab. Here's in Canada, some Albertans asked to turn down the Moderna vaccine. Alberta's top doctor is recommending that those aged 12 to 29 avoid the Moderna COVID-19 vaccine. How many people get the myocarditis? Approximately 1 case of myocarditis is found per 7,000 doses in 12 to 17-year-old males with Pfizer. 1 case per 2,000 doses with the Moderna. And now they're even admitting that a guy died directly as a result from the vaccine.
So one guy died?
You have a 1 in 50 chance of dying.
I guess you got to ask yourself. Graham, no, that's not the point. And let me make my point, and then I'll give it to you. I'm going to hand it to you. So now they're even admitting in the USA Today that a guy died as a direct result.
One
from
guy
myocarditis
died
from the vaccine.
That's what, like, how many vaccines have been administered? Like hundreds of millions. One guy died.
Oh, and now we have. So I don't know how you can. I'm not saying, again, you can judge whether the risk is worth taking. If you think the risk from the vaccine is lower than the risk from COVID, then you should take the vaccine. But if you think the risk, if you would rather not take that risk of the vaccine and just take the risk from COVID, that should be your choice. I don't know how you can force someone to take a treatment that you know is going to injure some of those people. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, you can bring up those statistics all you want about those articles about the hospital beds, but the reality was the hospitals were full during Delta and of unvaccinated COVID patients. So, like, that was happening.
I need to
read
read about some of those things that he's trying to bring up.
Had you been injured during that time, Jimmy, you might not have gotten a hospital bed. Now, the point that a for-profit healthcare system takes away hospital beds,
Albertans are nut jobs, Texans of the North. Yeah, I was just going to say, isn't Alberta, Canada, like the loony part of Canada?
I'll be talking about that. That should be, and again, the corporate media is not going to talk about that because they get money from these big companies. And you got people like Cuomo who did this. So that is a fine argument to say we, the richest country in the world, should not be getting rid of hospital beds. We should be adding them, especially in the middle of a pandemic. I agree with you on that. I'm Medicare for all, which is a government mandate. The other thing too, you bring up some articles and some science. Well, I've got some articles too of some doctors, and you brought up Malone. You bring up Malone, you had him on your show. I'm not qualified to disagree with Malone. I don't know. He's a doctor. And I'm going to bring up some doctors.
Wait a minute. Don't you?
No, the doctor can be disagreed with based on the overall consensus of what scientists, the scientific community is saying.
Change the subject. Let's stay on the same subject. So we talked about hospital beds. You got the last word on hospital beds. Now let's move on to vaccine injury. So I just showed you one out of 2,000 people of doses are going to cause myocarditis from the Moderna for kids up to 29 years old. How can you force someone to take that if you know 1 out of every 2,000 of them is going to get injured?
I don't believe that's actually true.
Unfortunately, Jimmy, I mean, look. Well, I guess.
Again, that's the thing about getting into the weeds of this, like, anti-vax bullshit, is you just find some random article or something, then you have to spend a bunch of time actually looking into it.
I felt sick for about 30 hours after the vaccine and the booster because I'm a sellout to Big Pharma and I love Nazis. So
the lockdown left.
I didn't have any serious adverse effects, right? I didn't. Now you did, and I'm glad you talked about it. And I saw your interview on Joe Rogan. I actually watched it again this morning. And it's good that people are talking about it. We should be talking about it. People should not be shamed for talking about it. But one of the things...
No, people should be shamed.
I mean,
assuming you're talking about, like, I got chills for 24 hours or the night of getting the vaccine. If you're just saying that from a genuine place and you're not trying to feed into anti-vax bullshit, that's fine, obviously. But if you're out here making crazy claims like it caused a mini stroke, I mean, that's just a clown show.
Would you rather have the adverse side effects or being dead? Because you told me when this thing first happened, you said, Graham, if I get this, I'm dead because of your pre-existing condition, which is, that's valid. And people have to ask themselves that. I mean, what do you want to be dead? I mean, the vaccine, it's unfortunately, we're in a global pandemic. So we're trying to minimize the number of deaths. And that's, I mean, it's a horrible thing to ask, but and when you talked about it on the Joe Rogan show, you didn't want to go into the specifics of it. Okay, that's fine. But there's a lot of things, and this is what I'm seeing in some people who are getting vax injured, is they're, I'm not saying you deliberately did this or this other, anybody else is like deliberately not talking about it, but you got to talk about, we're going to get the data and talk about everything. You should talk about all the medications you were on when you got that, right? That's part of it. What your bone disease is, because we got to get all the data. Is a blood type more susceptible?
You have to give all of your confounding factors.
These interactions of these medications make it more susceptible. So that's the other thing when I see these articles, like
maybe it's not even susceptibility, but just like some problem arises that would have arisen even without you know, taking the vax itself. Sometimes things just happen to coincide in terms of timing.
A guy died from the vaccine and he was healthy. The media always paints this broad brush. You don't know. Was the person doing drugs? Did they drink too much? Did they do blow last night? I don't know. I mean, when I get my physical, they always ask me,
if it's Jimmy Dore, that's for sure.
Do you smoke? Do you take drugs? You have any allergies to medicines? So all of those are factors that I'm not hearing in any of this. I'm just hearing this broad brush being painted.
Well, I can tell you, before I answer this, because I forgot one point you made earlier about that we disagree on, was that you're operating under the theory that the more people that get vaccinated, the less bad variants we'll have. Like, it's the people who are unvaccinated that lets the virus then mutate and become more deadly. Now, everything I've read,
and the hospitalizations are tied to that. That's not a separate issue. That's a part of that. That's a part of that.
Okay.
That's a part of my argument.
So what I've been told and what Dr. Robert Malone said on the show was that the exact opposite happens. And that's what the Barrington Declaration was about. They were saying targeted vaccinations to people who are vulnerable.
Wait. I need to check this out. Hold on. Hold on. I wonder if this is the one that he was referencing. Let's see. Okay, this... I wish I could find... Hold on. Let's see. Okay, these are more well-known. Alright. Let's see if it's this one. So he cited the article about the myocarditis thing. It says fact check preprint study that claimed 1 in 1,000 risk of myocarditis following COVID-19 vaccine was withdrawn due to miscalculation. A preprint study which claimed that there is a 1 in 1,000 risk of contracting a heart inflammation condition known as myocarditis has since been retracted due to a calculation. The study, which was conducted by the researchers at the University of Ottawa Heart Institute, was featured in numerous blogs and social media posts as proof that the COVID vaccine is unsafe for use. New study shows 1 in 1,000 develop heart inflammation after COVID vaccination. Myocarditis and other related heart conditions have increased death rate within 5 years. The headline of the article published on September 21st on the Gateway Pundit reads, studies go through a process known as peer review, where experts in a specific field analyze the piece to ensure its accuracy and to assess that it is of high academic standard. The preprint paper has since been retracted and viewable in full. The study had calculated an incidence rate of myocarditis in the Ottawa region post-vaccination by dividing the number of occurrences of the heart inflammation condition over a 2-month period, June and July 2021 in Ottawa, 32 by the number of vaccinations in the area, reported as 32,379 in the preprint. The incidence rate of myocarditis using these figures equates to 10 for every 10,000 doses of the vaccine. The preprint paper had used an incorrect figure for the number of doses administered in Ottawa over that 2-month period, however. Between the week beginning May 30th and the week starting July 25th, there had been 845,930 vaccines administered in the Ottawa region, according to data published by the Ottawa Public Health, which is far greater than the figure used to calculate the incidence rate, 32,379. Okay, so that's the difference. So the total amount of vaccines administered were 845,930, but the calculation that they used to figure out the incidence rate was only 32,379. So it's extremely, extremely underreported. They used the wrong number. The denominator, total vaccines administered over a 2-month period in Ottawa, used to calculate the incidence rate of myocarditis in the preprint study, was approximately 25 times smaller than the correct figure. The study was then withdrawn on September 24th. In a statement, the researchers said, "Our reported incidence appeared vastly inflated by an incorrectly small denominator, i.e. number of doses administered over the time period of the study. We reviewed the data at Open Ottawa and found that there had indeed been a major underestimation, with the actual number of administered doses being more than 800,000, much higher than quoted in the paper." So I don't know if this is the one that, this is the one that he was citing, but this one was completely debunked because they said that there was only 32,000 administered doses, but there were actually almost 846,000 administered doses. I guess we can check to see if this is the one that he had personally cited. Let me see here. So he gave an example of one random guy dying, and then this one is which one? Where is this? Approximately 1 case of myocarditis found per 7,000 doses in 12 to 17-year-old males. Pfizer COVID-19, 1 case per 2,000 second doses with Moderna COVID-19 vaccines. Where does that come from? Which study does that come from?
Moderna's jab.
Sweden,
Iceland
Denmark?
joins.
Is that where it comes from? Joins already appears halting Moderna COVID vaccinations. I'll keep looking.
Vaccinations aren't linear. You don't know what's going to happen with the third one. That's what it does in healthy people. Point you made earlier about that we disagree on was that you're operating under the theory that the more people that get vaccinated, the less bad variants we'll have. Like, it's the people who are unvaccinated that lets the virus then mutate and become more deadly. Now,
yes.
Everything I've read,
and the hospitalizations are tied to that. That's not a separate issue. That's a part of that. That's a part of that.
Okay.
That's a part of my argument.
So what I've been told and what Dr. Robert Malone said on this show was that the exact opposite happens. And that's what the Barrington Declaration was about. They were saying targeted vaccinations to people who are vulnerable. And what Robert Malone said on this show was that because you want the virus to go through healthy people and then mutate to become more infectious and less pathogenic. That's what it does in healthy people. And if you over-vaccinate, you create a thing called viral escape, which is like when you use antibiotics too often in farm animals, and then they become resistant. And he's like, that's...
So who is he quoting here? Is he quoting a random doctor, or is he quoting the scientific community?
The same. That's what Robert Malone said on the show, that same thing.
So he's citing one random doctor and not the scientific community. So you can find any random doctor that you want to say whatever you want. That's why it's important to know what the actual large, like 98+% of the scientific community says. You can find crazy doctors out there all the time. You probably know crazy doctors yourself, maybe ones that you've experienced.
Could happen
in your own life
with this virus, and that viruses aren't linear. that you don't know what's going to happen with a third boost. I mean, vaccinations aren't linear. You don't know what's going to happen with the third one. He said it could shut down your immune system. You don't know what's going to happen with the fourth one.
What?
And so,
dude, it's always like random mysteries. With the anti-vaxxers, always, dude, your balls could explode, dude. The moon can fall in Lake Michigan. It's all. I thought he was not about living in fear, but I guess that's what he's all about.
that's where we disagree. So
Can I show you some doctors that don't agree with Malone? Because this is part of the problem.
Sure,
that I think
sure.
I've had, Jimmy, and when I watch your show, and this is why I've kind of it's started to frustrate me, is because sometimes I watch your show and it's like there's only two doctors in the world. There's Fauci and Malone, and like there's again, I'm not qualified to disagree with Dr. Malone. That all sounds great to me. And if everyone agreed with Malone, great, I would too. But this is how science works, is you need peer-reviewed studies. So there's a bunch of doctors and virologists and who are like, they don't agree with him. So first of all, there's all right, can I share a screen?
And while you're by the way, while you're looking for that, let me just say this. Because now I'm in a position also with Max Blumenthal now and Friorella and Max Kaiser. So before I forget.
Not Max Kaiser. Max Kaiser's great.
Okay.
I didn't say Max Kaiser loves Bitcoin. I love Maybe I said his name by mistake.
Okay.
It's not Max Kaiser. Maybe I meant Blumenthal. He's a Bitcoin guy. I love him.
So let me just say that, Max is a great journalist. They do great work. I love Max. He's been a valuable asset to this show. I have all the respect in the world for him, and he's informed me on COVID a lot more than anybody probably. Maybe him and Dr. Malone, and now Robert F. Kennedy Jr. I'm reading that book. It's unbelievable. So I don't want to. I share Max Blumenthal's chagrin with the left and the people who are doing what he's said people were doing. And he might have conflated your tweet and made it worse than it was. I don't want to shit on Max at all, because I have nothing but respect for Max. And
is whatever Alberta's top doctor is saying here, like it says Alberta's top doctor, is Alberta's top doctor in line with what 98+% of the scientific community is saying, or is this just some crank who's a singular doctor who's saying something? The opinion of one singular doctor doesn't really mean shit. I don't really give a fuck who you are. Again, it comes down to what does the scientific data, what does the scientific community in like 98% unison believe? You can find a singular doctor that will believe literally anything, dude. There are crazy doctors out there. There are horrible doctors. There's awful doctors. There's awful humans who are doctors. Doctors are not all just, every single one is just God-sent genius and has no corruption or is selling shady like vitamins on their website like ones on Joe Rogan. So I really don't give a fuck what a singular doctor has to say. If you show me that the scientific evidence and scientific community in analysis of that evidence is like, oh, this is a real threat, that's one thing. But just pointing to some doctor doesn't mean anything.
I'm sure he would love to have a conversation about this with anybody, including you. So
okay. I mean, what he did to me was shitty. I don't know this guy. And then his term, the lockdown left, is laughable.
I like that term, actually.
Okay. Well, I think it's ridiculous. And I'll say this. He should also, when he's on your show, he should not try to be funny.
Come on. He's funny.
Now, Jimmy, I don't try to be a journalist. He shouldn't try to be a comedian.
Come on.
All right?
He's
Jimmy,
very...
if you're a comic... Put your comic hat on.
Okay, we'll disagree on the quality of Max's comedy. I like it.
Okay, he's not a professional comedian. So
I don't know. I don't think he's ever been paid to do comedy, but he could do. I saw him do a stand-up set on video. It was actually pretty funny. So anyway, now
I want to show you.
You're going to show me Dr. Robert Malone, right? This is what you're doing.
This is the guy. I'm going to share the screen. The host has disabled this. Can you guys allow me to do it through Zoom? All right. I mean, I could bring it on the screen behind me. Whatever's easier.
Yeah, I could do that. Could you do that?
All right.
So again, what is Jimmy taking?
I don't know how well you can see it, but
Molly.
This is Eric Topool, and he's on Twitter, and there's this thread, and who is he? He's a physician, scientist, author, and editor. Okay. So
can't see shit.
He said here, debunking another myth, the mRNA vaccines didn't just suddenly appear in 2020 for COVID-19. Many had been tested years previously for other viruses. Status of 4 years ago in this table and shown to be safe. Now, these are a bunch of doctors and scientists, and they get into these discussions, and half of it I can't even get into it because I'm not. But these doctors are discussing and debating it. On a related matter, Dr. Alone, who asserts he is the inventor of mRNA vaccines and actively cultivate vaccine skepticism, is not and has admitted this fact. Doctors Kakiro and Weissman Lab are credited with the seminal work that led to the mRNA vaccines. And in fact, there was an article in this magazine, Logically, that said Malone invented mRNA. And he wrote, Malone himself said, Malone reached out to Logically stating that he did.
So just looking at this, it's essentially explained that it was preliminary data that's not even 100% clear. Just like the other study was preliminary and not peer-reviewed, what ended up happening was, I guess, some of the Nordic countries decided to pause the Pfizer vax for people aged 12 through 17. It says the Nordic registry study looking at the incidence of myocarditis and pericarditis has not been completed and therefore has not yet been published, and final conclusions cannot yet be drawn from this study. It added the side effect is rare and the absolute risk is still low. So it seemed like a very overly precautionary move on their part. I guess that's the move that they had decided to make, but there was no real data showing that this was any sort of like serious risk of any kind, and even obviously COVID itself can cause problems like heart attacks. But this in and of itself was very rare. This is October 11th. The Finnish Institute for Health and Welfare issued a statement outlining its own instructions, which that boys and men aged under 30 should only be offered the Pfizer Comirnaty COVID vaccine. The decision is due to be reviewed in November. It cited preliminary results of a Nordic study that found that the occurrence of heart inflammation is higher in the Moderna vaccine than the Pfizer vaccine, though stated such effects from COVID vaccines is rare overall. So again, it's a very rare situation. Iceland released a statement which indicated it's taken the furthest action in regard to Moderna's vaccine of all the country mentioned. The country's Directorate of Health said on August 10th that Moderna usage in the country was low anyway, and that as there is sufficient supply of Pfizer vaccine, epidemiologists have decided not to use the Moderna vaccine in Iceland. However, in a later statement released on October 12th, the director issued an update that read, in Iceland, Moderna is now almost exclusively used in booster vaccinations, and it will be used limited to booster vaccines 60 years and older for the time being. Denmark has also paused usage for people below the age of 18 as a precaution. So it's just a precautionary measure. It's based on preliminary data. The other one coming out of Ottawa was false. They completely did a terrible job where they divided it by only 32,000 vaccinations when there were over 840,000 vaccinations. And so this was, again, based on preliminary data that's not proven. It's not a published peer-reviewed study, so there's no evidence that it's true. But the countries decided to do a preliminary, based on preliminary data, they wanted to be very careful. And so if it's not a peer-reviewed study, then there's no real evidence of what Jimmy Dore is talking about of the numbers in terms of like the myocarditis stuff. So none of that's really true either.
Not invent the mRNA vaccines, but insisted the vaccine technology platform. He also presented us with copies of 9 patents, none of which showed that he invented the mRNA vaccine. Okay, I'm not trying to say Malone's a liar, I got him. I'm just saying there's doctors out there not agreeing with him.
No, Malone is a liar, dude. What one singular doctor says is nothing. And I understand the strategy here of like, oh, well, here's a doctor that disagrees with your lunatic doctor. But again, you can find a doctor that believes literally anything, okay? I'm sure you've encountered crazy doctors. Doctors are not just infallible geniuses with no corruption or idiocy. One singular doctor does not just override the scientific community and their advice and data and analysis.
So I think that's part of the problem. I keep hearing you say Malone.
Jimmy peer-reviewed the study. Yeah, dude, Jimmy Dore, definitely.
Malone, I'm like, that's great, but there's people out there that don't agree with him, and this is the thing that's important with science. The scientists and the doctors should debate this. Good. I don't have the brain. You don't have the brain to do this. But we should have this discussion rather than turning this into another team to pick. you know, and
even
and
the thing is, even
the
the discussion is bullshit though, because he's gonna cite bullshit studies. The doctor is gonna say some lies, but the scientific evidence is going to be there.
If you're not Malone, you're not the true left. And I've heard, and this is part of the thing, and I said this in the phone call yesterday, is you've said numerous times you're not the true left. If you're anti-mandates, you're not the true left. Well, that's a personal offense to me. You want to disagree with my stance on the...
That's what Jimmy Dore does, though, man. Nobody's left but him.
My mandate's great, Jimmy. I respect that. But who are you to say who's the left and who isn't? Like,
what do you mean, who is he to say that? He's the god. Look at that face, dude. Just look at that face, bro. This is the face of the left right here, dude. This is the face of the left. You don't question this guy, okay? He tells you if you're left wing or not, all right? Got it?
You're gonna, like, I drive an electric car, so any lefty that drives a gas car, not the true left. You're fucking selling out to big oil. I mean, that's like we're getting into this thing that's helping divide the left. And obviously we agree we don't want to be part of dividing the left, but that when I hear that statement, how can I not feel insulted by that? And anybody in our world that agrees with me is now not the true left? I mean, is Lee Camp, who's friends with me, he's friends with you, he's friends with Max Blumenthal, is he not? And I'm not name checking Lee Camp. I had a conversation with him. Like, is he not the true? I mean, that's the thing. The problem I'm having is we're getting into this team thing, and when there's people out there, and I'm not
No,
like,
but listen, Graham, look at my bullshit studies that inflate the numbers of myocarditis in young people.
Graham takes down Malone. I'm not going to make a video that says that. I'm just showing you that there's a bunch of people, these doctors and scientists that go into this thread, and then this guy fact checks Malone's pseudoscience and his lack of credibility. Now, he's another doctor. If he wants to say pseudoscience, he gets to say that. I don't.
So let me,
and then they start talking about catonic liposome. Now they're talking doctor talk.
Okay.
I don't know what they're saying.
So, you know, I don't want to debate the credentials of Dr. Robert Malone because they did hit jobs on him, Big Pharma, and in the
man, everybody associated with Jimmy just hit jobs, bro.
Atlantic, run by fucking war criminals and funded by Big Pharma. And, you know, what he said was basic virology 101. And
oh, gotta love the basic talk.
What he also was parroting, or in conjunction with, was that the Barrington Declaration. And so what we're finding out, Graham, is that when those guys came up with the Barrington Declaration, which was about targeted lockdowns, targeted vaccinations, to do it in a way that had less pain for everybody. And what happened was Fauci and the guy Collins at the NIH, they were like, we have to take this shit down because it's going to wreck our vaccine policy. It's going to, not what Big Pharma wants, not what we want. And so it's now being revealed that they would feed these garbage stories to the press. The press would feed them to Fauci, and then they would get people to write hit pieces on them. And that
just reeks of bullshit.
Happened. They called them 3 fringe virologists. The guys were Harvard virologists and Stanford virologists, and they were anything then.
So what, 3 virologists? 3 virologists. Those are the people we're going to start taking our advice from. Those 3 virologists, dude, any 3 virologists you grab from any Ivy League school, just take their opinion, everything. Don't think about the scientific community. Don't listen to scientists. Just listen to those 3 virologists. That's
far
genius.
From fringe. They were all experts.
Considering you're talking about them, I don't know, dude.
In their field, well regarded and published. So what they did was a hit piece on those guys with the Barrington Declaration, which is the same thing that they're doing to Robert Malone, the same thing they're doing to all the guys that are in JFK's book. Look what they did to RFK Jr.
Sure.
Look what they did to him. And all he's doing is asking for the same thing you're asking for, Graham, which is like, hey, can we have a discussion about this without calling each other Nazis? And that's what I like to do. But I will say, no, so let's move on to your other point, which was about lockdowns and the lockdown left, and you're not lefty if you're for lockdowns. I think it's okay to say that a knee-jerk reaction to lockdowns, or lockdowns in general, or the way they did lockdowns, are not good from a lefty perspective, and that it is authoritarian, to take away someone's rights just like that without any real debate about it. And we're doing it under the guise of...
So lockdowns, again, they're completely constitutional based on case law.
Science that comes from guys like Dr. Fauci, which we now find out has been lying to us and doing hit pieces on people and scientists, well-regarded scientists, who have different opinions on how to do this. So we weren't having this debate. We still haven't had that debate. And so now what they're...
The debate is bullshit, that's why.
Doing is just character assassinations against the people who have different ideas than Dr. Fauci and Collins at the NIH. And so that's where we're left. So I'm skeptical of the whole COVID narrative and the vaccine narrative. Of course, I'm in a unique position because I got severely injured by the vaccine. Now, when you say...
My ass cheeks, get the fuck out of here.
Jimmy, we don't know. It might be your own... somehow it might be my fault because I had a pre-existing condition.
I didn't say your fault. Never use that word.
Or it might be because I had a pre-existing condition that when I got the vaccine, I got injured by it. So,
I don't even think it's that.
Oh, what?
I think he just goes through a bunch of bullshit every day, and he probably just attributed to whatever he's going through to the vaccine. Or maybe something different popped up. I mean, dude, this guy washes down. His whole life is just drunk with alcohol, drugs. He has like this really bad bone disease. Like, dude, you think he's not feeling pain on a daily basis already?
Now he's
he's just going to be attributing stuff like that to things. So you can experience things that maybe even are real, but they're not attributed. They shouldn't be attributed to something.
So what? And so you're still... if I had a regular job, I'd still be mandated to get that vaccine, and then I would get injured by it because I have this other thing. But what happened was I went into a study.
They have medical exemptions.
They were taking people like me who got injured by the jab, and the theory was that we had long COVID, just like people who had long COVID, but we got it from the jab. So they have this test.
What?
I'm not a scientist.
What? What kind of bullshit is this?
But he showed me the test, and he showed me the biomarkers.
Getting COVID from the vaccine? That's not even possible.
And he said, here's a person who has long COVID. There's their biomarkers. And here's you. You have the same biomarkers as someone who has long COVID. So
who said this?
You got it from... They concluded I got it from the jab.
Who?
And they treated me then as if I had long COVID.
How do they treat you? What do they treat you with if you have long COVID?
At the time, the CDC was recommending that doctors doing studies like that use drugs like ivermectin to see how it worked. They were actually recommending. You would never know that if you watch the mainstream news because it's funded by Big Pharma. In fact, if you said that, they call you a horse dewormer. They still do it, by the way. They still do it.
This guy's full of shit.
So, so that's what happened. So I don't understand what the difference is if I was mandated and I have a... So that's why you shouldn't have a mandate. That's what I'm saying, because people, you don't know what's going to happen. They could get injured, and now I'm injured, and I'm still injured. And I get a headache every day. I get a neck ache every fucking day, and worse often.
That stuff from the vaccine? Dude, what evidence do you have it came from the vaccine? A supposed doctor saying you have the same biomarkers?
It's horrible. So, and I don't know how long it's going to last. It's depressing, I'll tell you that. It's super depressing. And what's even more depressing is that people call me a horse dewormer guy, people call me an anti-vaxxer, and people call me a liar when all I'm doing is telling the truth about this. But anyway, we're getting into a different thing.
You are a liar, dude. I don't believe you for a second.
That's all valid.
So so let me just put that question to you, Graham. What would you say to someone like me who now I'm going to be considered unvaxxed? In a couple, I am now already, right? Because it's wanes after 6 months. So and so now in DC, they're making the booster part of, you're not vaxxed until you get the booster. So now what about somebody like me? And what about somebody, let's do that. What about somebody like me?
Very valid question. And a very thing that should be discussed and debated amongst scientists.
Medical exemptions should always be a thing, but I don't believe there's any evidence that the vaccine has caused him anything. So if you want, to be working in areas and going to public events, then yeah, you need the booster.
Unfortunately, I would say politicians, but I don't know that our politicians are capable of such a thing. But the other question I would ask is, and again, this is just me projecting, if I was in your position, I would have to ask myself, what happens if I get COVID? is that going to be worse than these symptoms from the vaccine? Right?
Right. That's what you're right.
The thing is, I don't even want to bring that up because then it's like I'm giving credence to whatever bullshit Jimmy Dore is saying, which no, I don't believe that I have a hard time even believing the symptoms that he's saying, but we don't know shit about details about this guy's life, okay? He's not too open about a lot of that stuff, I would say. He doesn't seem like somebody who would just be in like great condition all the time. Maybe he was already getting headaches and all this stuff before. Now he's just bullshitting and attributing it to the vaccine. But I'm not even bypassing that. I don't believe you. I definitely don't believe it. And I certainly don't believe that there's any evidence it was attributed to the vaccine.
That's the choice that I should be able to make. I don't think you should mandate that for someone else. I should be able to make that choice. And especially since I found out after doing further research and now reading RFK Jr.'s book that they totally suppressed early treatments. They've told, I don't know if I'm not allowed to say them on YouTube, but we're on Rumble. But there are lots of early treatments that work, and they fucking suppress them. And they never talk about vitamin D. Doesn't that piss you off that they never talk about zinc, vitamin D, vitamin K, and get your obesity down, get your weight down? They never talk about that. Doesn't that drive you crazy, Graham?
That's legitimate. Those are legitimate things to bring up. And I think what you should be...
Where did the science on the vitamin D stuff go? Where did the science on the vitamin D stuff go?
Able to say, get a medical exemption if that's what you need. If you were in a job where they said you got to get this, then those would be causes for you to get a medical exemption from getting the booster. I mean, I think that you have a legitimate case to get a medical. I mean, that people are given medical exemptions with the booster, with the vaccine, be it the first.
Do you think that there's more risk in taking the vaccine than taking a pill of some kind?
One, the second, or the booster, right?
Yes.
Are there no risks of taking medicines?
People can get medical
you're going to catch it eventually if you don't have the vaccine.
Exemptions, yes.
So that's, to me, that's one of the things that's in place. And the bigger discussion here, I think, is obviously there's so many things about our broken Medicare system, and I know we agree on this, that would help would end half of these arguments you and I are having. And so it's valid to bring them up to also show we have a broken healthcare system. We should have been doing testing. I mean, I can show you some other doctors that are like, Joe Biden's new rollout is awful because, in other countries, tests are free. And they've just been testing the shit out of everybody, which we didn't have. I had to get a rapid test because I was exposed to something.
That is one thing that's shitty. I do wish there were more accessible COVID tests.
I tested negative, but I had to pay $90 because it wasn't covered by my insurance. That is then encouraging people to not get tested. And all of the hospital everything that we're talking about, I mean, a lot of the stuff here, it's built on a foundation of stuff we agree on. That our healthcare system is broken. We need more hospital beds and all of that. And I think your situation, you should be given a medical exemption.
What about these people?
Fuck no.
So look at this though, Graham. So we know kids aged 12 to 29, if they take the Moderna, one out of every 2,000 doses is going to create myocarditis. One out of every 7,000 of the Pfizer's. That's according to the people up at Alberta's top doctor.
So one top doctor is your source. One singular doctor is your source. In comparison to the entire gigantic scientific community, your source is one top doctor of what is essentially the loony bin of Canada.
So how can you mandate?
Even in there, it says due to a rare side effect.
Someone do that.
These numbers have all been debunked. It's all been debunked.
Roll of the dice. How could you mandate that?
Well, because
it's not roll of the dice, dude. There's no peer-reviewed legitimate studies. Most of these studies haven't even been released. Most of them weren't even completed. It was preliminary data. So it wasn't even like, oh, it's released, but it's not peer-reviewed. It's like, nah, it hasn't even been finished yet. And so it's just like it was debunked. And it was countries that are being overly cautious, which, hey, they were pausing the vaccines. I mean, I think that's foolish given the coronavirus situation. But, I don't know. I guess it is what it is on their part. But all that shit has been completely debunked.
I mean,
he's not going to look into that stuff, though. He's just going to take some random headline or whatever. Like I said, what I'm saying? Like, even the countries themselves were saying that it was very, it's very rare and it was completely debunked. And this one that came out of Ottawa, the Canadian study, I guess, They completely miscalculated it because they divided by only 32,000 doses instead of calculating by dividing by 840,000 doses. So obviously your rate is going to be way, way higher, but it's nowhere even close. And so these were all based, like the decisions of just these Nordic countries that made this decision. I mean, it's just a few Nordic countries that even made this decision anyways. But all they were doing was pausing it, and it was just simply because, it says the risk of this is very small according to the Swedish Health Ministry. So all of them even were saying that the risk is very small, but it was all dependent upon preliminary data. It says cited preliminary results of a Nordic study that found that the occurrence of heart inflammation is higher in the Moderna vaccine than the Pfizer vaccine. Those stated such effects from COVID vaccines is, quote, rare overall. So it's literally based on data that wasn't even finished. It wasn't even a study fully finished, let alone peer-reviewed. And you need these studies to be peer-reviewed because otherwise there's a bunch of flaws, especially based on methodology. So all those numbers are just complete bullshit. But don't expect him to look into any of that stuff.
What about all the people that have died? I mean,
that's up to them though to get it. So
not necessarily.
That's the thing though, like. He's going the wrong route because he doesn't have the access to those studies, and this is one of the problem with debates. Like in a live debate, being able to fact check the stupid shit that Jimmy Dore is saying here with those fake studies is, and so it's virtually impossible, right? So this is one of the problems with quote unquote debates.
So hold on.
What about? So how does?
If you're unvaccinated,
If you're unvaccinated,
okay, you're more likely to spread it. I mean,
yeah, but Graham,
that's where it feels like it's being selfish.
No, Graham, but if does the vaccine protect you from the fucking virus or not? And
yeah, it does. 70-90%.
If it protects you from the fucking virus, if it's good, that so much so that you're gonna make someone else take it, then why don't you fucking believe it protects you? Why do you need someone else to take something to protect you? If it protects us, then you're protected.
It's filling up hospitals, and also people being non-vaccinated are just petri dishes for further new variants.
If you took
it,
right,
it just exacerbates the issue.
Right, but again, it comes back to the hospital beds. I mean,
so now you change, but that's the different argument. You just moved the goalposts.
No, I did not.
You're saying someone else should fucking get vaccinated because they
dumbass. This is a public health crisis, you dumbass. Everything is connected in a public health crisis, you dumbass.
Might infect me. That's what you said.
Well, yeah, they could infect me. They could be. Now I'm less likely to have
you go get the vaccine then if you're afraid of it. You're all going to get it. You agree we're all going to get it, right?
Yes. And
so go get vaccinated. So who do you care if you get it from a vaccinated person or an unvaccinated person? Because you can still shed the virus when you're vaccinated. In fact, you have the same viral load for the first 7 days.
But you're way less likely to spread it because you're way less likely to catch it. Again, misrepresentation and lies.
Days.
The point that I'm making, yes, me, Graham Elwood, I'm vaccinated. So if I'm around an unvaccinated person, I'm less likely to get it. I'm less likely to have severe symptoms. And more importantly, I'm less likely to get hospitalized. That's why I took the vaccine, right?
Right.
But if they're going around other people, let's say they're around people that couldn't get the vaccine because they had a pre-existing condition. They're then putting them at risk. That bothers me.
So that's a different story. That's what we know.
No, because you're thinking about just me. I'm thinking about we. That's the difference. I got the vaccine because I'm a volunteer for the American Red Cross, and I'm like, I don't want to go into a disaster situation and potentially put
Jimmy Dore is just a douchebag in his basement,
somebody at risk,
making up fake symptoms from the vaccine.
Maybe I could get it and spread it more easier if I'm unvaccinated.
Yeah, but
that's where I disagree. That's the thing that bothers me is I thought the left was about everybody working together, everybody helping each other out, and all I hear is a lot of me from the anti-vax, anti-mandate crowd. Graham, that bothers me.
Working together isn't ordering people to take a medical procedure that you know is going to damage them.
It's not going to damage them. What the fuck are you talking about, dude?
No, you
not
don't know
working fucking together. Well, we know it's going to. I just showed you this,
dude. That's been debunked already. That's preliminary data that didn't end up being true. Even they themselves said that it's super rare.
Is this? We know how many people are going to get, according to this, the top doctor in Alberta.
The top doctor in Alberta. Wow. It's not even according to the top doctor in Alberta, by the way. I think that's a separate study. That's just that the top doctor in Alberta is going based off of. So he's not even, unless what I'm seeing is wrong, and the Alberta top doctor did the study themselves. it's a separate thing, right? It's a study that Alberta's top doctors is saying, is showing to then make that decision based on that, data. But dude, what one doctor says doesn't mean shit. Honestly, it doesn't matter if it's even Fauci. Like, I don't care. It depends on what do 98% of the scientists say. I don't care about what Canada's Texas's top doctor says.
The numbers there, and we know it gives people myocarditis.
I don't care what any singular one is.
That's why all those countries.
No, we don't know how much myocarditis is actually in there in terms of case rate, because this is all preliminary data that not only hasn't been published, but it certainly hasn't been peer reviewed yet.
Stop using the Moderna one, but if you had your...
It was like, what did he cite? Like 3 Nordic countries that themselves said that it was a rare side effect that, again, is being used based on preliminary data. So this is not hard evidence of any kind. It's just being overly cautious.
Your way, you would have mandated people get that one, and they would have got... No, if that's... What do you mean, wait a minute? That's true, right?
If I had my way...
Okay. Those studies are bullshit.
Mandate everyone get the vaccine, right? If you had your way, you would mandate everyone get it, right?
If I had my way, I'd mandate it?
Yeah.
I would hope everybody would do the right thing.
Yeah, but would you if they did?
I wouldn't mandate it. No, I wouldn't mandate it. I'm not comfortable with mandating the vaccine. It depends. See, this is the thing what you mean. Like, do I think businesses should fire your dumb ass if you don't get the vaccine? Yes. Do I think you should be barred from any public events if you don't get the vaccine? Yes. But do I think that the government should come to your house with a shotgun, break down the wall, and literally vaccinate you against your will? No, I'm not comfortable going that far. I think fines are the furthest I'm comfortable going. Otherwise, that's just too far.
Yeah, I would mandate it. There, you got me. Oh, you got me. There.
I'm just asking you a straight question, Graham. I'm not trying. That's not a gotcha. I'm asking. That's a straight up question.
This, Jimmy.
How is that a gotcha question? That's just a question. Would you mandate it for everybody if you had the power to? And you said you would. And I'm like, well, we know people are going to be getting injured from it all over.
No, we don't know that. He's lying.
And we know people are going to die from COVID. More people are going to die.
Yeah, but that's up to them to decide. You can't decide someone else has to take a fucking medical treatment. If you think the vaccine protects you from the disease, then you get the fucking vaccine. You can't make someone else take a medical treatment to...
In a public health crisis, you can do that. Especially because any of those impacts of what happens to those unvaccinated people directly impacts vaccinated people. So what you're going to see is hospitals being overrun, lots of money being spent on these idiots. And so it impacts all of us. That's what it does.
Save you, because it doesn't.
Okay, let me ask you this question.
Graham, you know you're going to get the virus. You know you're going to get it. Who do you care who you get it from?
First of all,
I care that everyone's vaccinated, so nobody's impacted by the virus.
Crown, that's probably the one I'm going to... If it's Delta, and the minute I get it, I would quarantine. What about all these people that are like, get it, don't care, don't test? They're in the hospital beds dying, and the nurses, all these videos of people saying, I don't have it while they die. There's the Herman Cain Awards. All these pro-anti-vax, these people, I don't want to get it, I don't like mandates, and then they get it and die. And it's hurt their family members, it's hurt their family. They've spread it to other people because, again, if you're unvaccinated...
This man is really wearing a shirt that's half buttoned up. Holy shit. How old is this guy?
You're more likely to spread a more severe version of it. Are you okay giving it to someone and they die and you don't?
You can spread the virus. I'm vaccinated, but I'm not getting a booster. And if someone else feels that they need to be protected from the vaccine, they should get vaccinated. That's what they should do.
Then don't go to the hospital if you catch coronavirus. Don't go.
That has nothing to do with me. And
but yes, I'm asking you a direct question. If you, since you're not going to get the booster and you get it and you give it to somebody and they die, are you okay with that?
Yeah, if someone dies from COVID, because we're all going to get COVID, that's my fault. How is that my fault if someone gets COVID, because we're all going to get COVID, and somehow now it's someone else's fault when someone dies from COVID? It's someone else's fault?
I mean, if you don't get vaccinated on purpose, and you know that you have a higher chance of spreading it because you're more likely to catch it, and then somebody dies, you'd really only be killing anti-vaxxers. I mean, you're not going to kill anybody who's vaccinated. It'd be very, very rare, obviously.
Do you understand how that is just divisive bullshit?
Oh, Jimmy.
I'm serious, Graham. I can say that to you.
I don't think it's divisive bullshit. I think it's selfishness.
You're blaming someone's.
Hold on. All these countries where this was not politicized, because America politicized it, right? Joanne Reed under Trump, when Trump said I'm going to have 100 million vaccines by the end of the year, she puts on Twitter something to the effect of, "Oh, I'm not taking that. You first." Biden gets into office. Suddenly she likes the vaccine. Puerto Rico, they didn't politicize this. 90% vaccination rate. They don't have these problems. So again, the hospitals were full of unvaccinated. I haven't heard you answer this direct question. What about all of the unvaccinated COVID patients with the Delta variant? And then you couldn't get access to a hospital. You showed me some statistic, but you didn't answer me directly what would happen if you were denied access to a hospital.
Yeah, his statistics weren't a real
rebuttal. We're all going to
get it.
We're all going to get what? Omicron,
which
which isn't as bad. Okay. Or the vaccinated, because if more people were vaccinated, you just say we're all going to get it. Like, it's the levels of how we get it. If you're vaccinated, you're less likely to get hospitalized.
Yes, Graham, that's for you. But again, you keep conflating shit.
No, you don't care about other people dying. It sounds like.
Graham. Okay.
Jimmy Dore just cares about whatever makes him feel better. But again, everything is linked. Like Graham is saying, everything in a public health crisis is linked. So yeah, the hospital availability is obviously going to be impacted by unvaccinated persons filling up hospitals.
Hey, well, I'll just leave it there because we're going around into this. Yes, everybody's going to get it. You can catch it and spread it if you are vaccinated.
Whoa.
Everybody's going to get it.
So if everybody's vaccinated and catches coronavirus, nobody will die and there won't be any serious hospitalizations. So hospitals won't be overfilled and it'll be just like normal people catching a cold.
You can catch it and spread it if you are vaccinated
at a way lower rate because you have a 70 to 90% protection from catching it in the first place. So if you're vaccinated, your odds of passing it are way lower than somebody who's unvaccinated, because somebody who's unvaccinated can pass it much easily because they're much more likely to be infected. You can't pass it if you don't have it.
So I'm vaccinated. I can get it and spread it. Now it's my fault that someone else dies?
It's not.
No, I mean, you did your job. You got vaccinated.
Severe if you're vaccinated. You keep pointing these things and then you skip over. This is the thing.
What do you mean? What's not as severe? What's not as severe, Graham? What is not as severe?
Hospitalized.
Experience with coronavirus when you're vaccinated.
That's not as severe.
Yeah.
Getting it and just having flu-like symptoms and having to stay home.
But
like
again, you're conflating the two ideas. I say, if you're, what does someone else getting vaccinated have to do with me being hospitalized? So
if they don't get vaccinated, they're more likely to take up hospital beds that other people will need, which could have been prevented by a simple vaccine. So it impacts everybody. It's a public health crisis.
I get COVID.
Unvaccinated. So I guess what you're saying, maybe correct me if I'm wrong. So if all the unvaccinated people get the most, everyone's going to get it, but the unvaccinated are going to get the more severe version. So more of them are going to be hospitalized and die. Correct?
No,
right?
No. That's first of all.
What do you mean no?
First of all, we don't know. How do you know that the unvaccinated are all going to get Delta? Now Omicron, they say, is going to take over.
I didn't say.
Do we know what the data on Omicron is for people who are not vaccinated?
I didn't say Delta or Omicron. I said...
You said Delta, the more serious version of it.
Because the Omicron numbers don't specify what the actual status of people, what people's status is. So I don't know how much we know about how severe that is.
You said Delta.
Okay. Or Omicron.
Obviously, for people who are vaccinated, it says absolutely nothing.
We don't even know how Omicron's new. Maybe it'll be worse. Maybe the first wave is easy, but then when it hits the unvaccinated, it's going to kill more people. So let's say whatever, Delta, Omicron, whatever the fuck new one they come up with, just COVID. Let's just say COVID. So unvaccinated people are more likely to get sick and to be hospitalized.
Yes.
So what you're saying, it's their choice. And if all those people die and the vaccinated just get mild versions of it and don't die, you're okay with that?
I don't know what. I honestly, I'm not trying to be a dick. I don't understand your point.
My point is the unvaccinated are making it more risky on themselves than anybody else that's unvaccinated. They're making it more risky on people who have pre-existing conditions and can't get vaccinated. If you're a health, and so I'm saying there's more COVID deaths than adverse reactions. Dying from COVID is an adverse reaction to COVID. So if you're just saying, hey, unvaccinated people,
there's no evidence of serious adverse reactions from the COVID vaccine.
And if you get COVID and die, fine. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, if people are unvaccinated, it's their choice. It's their choice to not be vaccinated.
Okay, and then if
they get COVID and died, it's their choice.
What about if all of the unvaccinated people are filling up the hospitals, which they are now, by the way, and then other people can't get any help?
So, since 40% of the country...
There's still thousands dying, like 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 dying every day. It's fucking crazy.
...is unvaccinated, and let's say Omicron is a lot worse, and Delta and Omicron together cause this perfect storm. So 40% of the country doesn't want to get vaccinated, and they shouldn't be mandated, okay, according to you. So 40% of the country is unvaccinated, all right? So that's 3 times 4 is what, 120 million people. So then they're all, the majority of them, or a high percentage of them, or even 1 to 3% of them, which is a lot of people, are in all the hospitals. So all the hospitals are overrun. So all those people die. You don't care if they die. And then all the people that die because they didn't have COVID but couldn't get access to a hospital, you're okay with them dying too?
So you're just making up numbers because the hospitalization rate is 0.8.
He's talking about making up numbers.
9%. You just said 1 to 3%. We all know the Omicron now. For every piece of evidence shows it's a very mild version.
Well,
and
right now.
So
that's the case, but again, a lot of people are vaccinated, so I don't know what the data is for people who are not vaccinated.
Again, the point of it is it doesn't prevent transmission, Graham.
It does prevent transmission.
If you're vaccinated and you get COVID.
Yeah, but what are your odds of getting COVID if you're vaccinated?
And someone is unvaccinated and they get COVID. You both spread the fucking virus.
And who's more likely to catch COVID, dumb fuck? Someone who's vaccinated or somebody who's unvaccinated?
Okay.
So no,
120 million people.
This guy's mentally disabled.
40% unvaccinated.
This guy's mentally disabled, dude.
Vaccinated times 0.08. That's your number, so maybe my numbers were too high. 10.8 million people in hospitals. You don't think that's going to cause a disaster in this country?
Graham, okay.
Answer that question.
If we run out of hospital beds, it'll be a disaster in this country. Yes.
Okay.
And if we run out of hospital beds, yes, that'll be a disaster. Are we going to run out of hospital beds? And if we do, why the fuck? By the way, why did more people? Anyway, so let's keep these one at a time. We got to keep them one at a time.
I have a.
Oh, I got to go. I have another guest. God damn it! I'm sorry. Garland Nixon is up next. But let me finish this with you, Graham.
All right.
Let me finish. We've been talking for an hour and 15 or 20. It's been pretty good. It's been pretty good.
I like it.
It's been pretty good. So, if you get COVID and you're vaccinated, and someone's unvaccinated and gets COVID, you both can spread the virus.
But who's more likely to catch the virus? Who's more likely to catch the virus?
And the science is you both have the same viral load.
But what does the science say about who's more likely to catch COVID? If you're somebody who's vaccinated, your odds of passing the COVID to somebody else is way lower than somebody who's unvaccinated, because as somebody who's unvaccinated, your chance of getting it is way, way higher than somebody who is vaccinated. So obviously, if you have a much higher chance of catching it, you have a much higher likelihood of passing it, right? So again, studies say 70 to 90% protection against transmission if you are vaccinated.
The first 7 days.
Shit.
So now you're going to mandate somebody get a vaccine for what? So because if you get COVID,
so society can go back to normal. So society can go back to normal. We won't have hospitals being overrun, and we can knock out COVID. And we can vaccinate our way out of this pandemic, because as we're getting to this point where vaccines make it so coronavirus is like getting the cold, once everybody has that, steroid for their immune system, that's how we vaccinate our way out of the pandemic. That's exactly what that means. It doesn't just mean like, oh, we're never going to catch it or whatever, but you want it to be as mild as possible. And luckily, thank God, we're getting to that point.
And everyone's going to get a version. So that's the problem I have. And you keep saying hospital beds. That's not an answer to that question.
That's what drives me nuts, Jimmy, because you just skipped over the fact that unvaccinated people are more likely to get hospitalized. I just use your numbers.
That is
forget even just hospitalization. Just think about who's more likely to pass COVID, someone unvaccinated or someone vaccinated. It's obvious.
True. Yeah, but what is so? But what? So you're saying you should mandate? Let me. So now I'm hearing. So you're saying you should mandate a vaccine because of hospital beds?
Yes.
That's crazy.
For all of society, dude. For all of society, you need society to be able to run. You can't run a society with constantly overpacked hospitals where there's no room for anybody.
We should maybe get more hospital beds. That's what we should do instead of doing.
You want to fight for more hospital beds? Here's the reality, Jimmy. I agree with you. We don't have as many hospital beds. We need more. I totally agree with you with that. The neoliberals at fucking Cuomo, all those guys, Pelosi, they've taken it out. The reality is we don't. So how do we deal with this immediate problem right now?
So I just want to let you know about mandates.
I don't even support a hard mandate though.
Before I go, this is what Dr. Fauci thought a year ago.
And do you foresee that the vaccine might be mandated for any populations, perhaps for school-age children?
No, I don't think you'll ever see a mandating of vaccine, particularly for the general public. Sometimes in the health sector, like in my hospital here at NIH, you're not going to be allowed to go on the ward unless you get a flu vaccine.
Mandate.
But you would never mandate, at least I do not think you would. I'd be pretty surprised if you mandated it for any element of the general public.
So what is he saying? I guess he's using that against Graham Elwood, who's pro hard mandate.
Now, as a primary care physician myself, who's had many conversations around vaccine safety with patients, I'm curious, what's our contingency plan for people who might refuse the vaccine?
Well, I mean, they have every right to refuse vaccine. I don't think you need a contingency plan. If someone refuses the vaccine in the general public, then there's nothing you can do about that. You cannot force someone to take a vaccine.
Right.
So I'll give you the last word, Graham.
Interesting that
I
he cut it
appreciate you
off.
coming on.
I wonder what else Fauci said after that. It's interesting he cut it off. Look, he's even looks like he's about to say something.
And we should do this more often. Actually, I don't think we're done. I think we could do this more.
I think, Jimmy,
It just turned into a waste of time.
I appreciate you having me on the show.
You just kept saying the same bullshit over and over again.
And you're my friend of 30 years, and I love you, and I was my friend before you had a YouTube show, and if you've lost everything, which I would never wish upon you, I would still be your friend. If you stopped doing this, you became a gardener, I'd still be your friend. So, and I love we can have this debate. I would love to see more people, because sometimes I feel like maybe the last couple of months, you've only had people on your show that agree with you, and I don't think that's a healthy thing. That's just
I don't even know necessarily what, I mean, I don't know. It would be more, it seems like Jimmy George is more, I guess he's trying to make a medical argument, but also he's trying to make like a more moral and political argument. So I don't know why you would go to Fauci for that. I don't know.
Friend, I think you should have more people that, not to have arguments. I mean, I don't like yelling fights. It kind of got at that towards the end, and I'm part to blame.
I was hoping for more.
I kind of like it. It's okay. Honest, it's okay. It's all right.
Okay.
It's okay to get frustrated.
People yell at games all the time.
Right. It's okay to yell at a fucking Dodger game. It's okay to yell about vaccine mandates and the most important things in the world.
We're both passionate because we give a shit.
That's right.
That's why we're lefties.
That's
care.
right. And I just can't believe how wrong.
No, Jimmy Dore is the only lefty. Nobody else is a lefty. Only Jimmy Dore.
You are.
Oh God, Jimmy! I just can't believe you don't give a shit that 10 million people are gonna die, and you're like, ha! Like,
I can't believe you turned into a Nazi.
Yeah, right.
You're such a fuck.
Fucking Graham. All right, Graham, I got to go. It's rude to my next guest. I hope he's still available, and we'll do this again for sure, Graham. We didn't finish. We have more shit to say.
We got more shit to say. Fauci just said mandates, or he would mandate flu vaccines on his wards, so they've been there for a while.
Okay. Okay. All right, buddy. Graham Elwood. Everybody
check me out, GrahamElwood.com. Thanks, man.
All right.
All right. So that's the debate between Jimmy Dore and Graham Elwood. Jimmy Dore peddling a bunch of BS, debunked preliminary studies about myocarditis potential that were not published or peer-reviewed. Also making up misrepresented lies like, oh, a vaccinated person and an unvaccinated person can spread it at the same rate. Not explaining that actually you're way less likely to spread it as a vaccinated person because you have a way lower chance of catching the virus in the first place. So pretty much mostly from Jimmy Dore, just a bunch of lies. a bunch of made up stuff from, his pictures, which who knows how doctored they are after watching Sean's video, after seeing what Sean did to Jimmy Dore. So, obviously all of his information is misrepresented. One of his sources was some random doctor. Anytime you're pointing to one singular random doctor, your argument is probably bullshit. You have to look at what the scientific community says. Typically it's 98% plus scientific unity in terms of these kinds of things. So that's essentially what you have to look at. And I really don't care what one singular doctor has to say, because you can find any crazy doctor you want. I saw on Joe Rogan's podcast there was one who was selling all these vitamins on his website, clearly just a fraud. Doctors are not just these godlike figures where there's no stupidity, no corruption, no none of that. That's not true. And so you have to look at the scientific community. So all of this stuff is just complete BS. And I don't believe his symptoms, and I certainly don't believe that they're attributed to the vaccine in any way, regardless of his weird spiel about, I don't know, the markers, according to his doctor, some shit. I don't know what he went to, maybe a shaman or some shit. I have no idea, but that's that. And that's just kind of what went down. Alright, well, I did not anticipate reacting to the whole thing. I'm probably going to end up maybe posting that to YouTube, I'm thinking. That is a very long video. Definitely, let me read some super chats. Definitely make sure to send a super chat if you do support the stream. It is very much appreciated, not required, though. We do have a $50 super chat goal today. If we do hit that, I'll guarantee another stream this week. Although I'll probably still stream anyway this week, to be completely honest. But I do want to read my super chats that I got sent, so let me read those out. I need to find the super chats right quick, though. Where is it at? Why is it not showing me my super chats? I don't think I can scroll up that far to find it. That's good, though. But I need to find the super chats. Oh, boy. That's weird. How many horse pills are you taking?
Hold on.
Let's see.
Let's get this shit.
All right,
Let's
we just
get
got a
this shit.
25 bomb.
Let's
How do you say that?
top of the morning.
Big
Top of
old
the morning.
Lamea?
Top of the
Oh,
morning.
shit, that's loud. Sorry. Appreciate the 25, dude. Thanks for the $25 super chat. Much appreciate the support, my dude. Big appreciate. Thanks so much, man. Really appreciate that. I am sad I can't find the super chats that were sent earlier for whatever reason. They're just not showing up. So I'm really sorry. Thank you to Proto for the 5, Hello Kin2 for the 2, James Black with the 2, and then there was another 2. I'm really sorry, Proto. I don't know what you said or asked, but definitely anybody who sent their super chat, definitely let me know what you said, because I definitely want to respond. So my apologies for that. But thank you very much, Big. I appreciate that. And Jimmy Dore is completely insane, spouting, debunk stuff like Sean exposed of him. So, he's still continuing to do that. I still felt like Graham probably could have did a better job, but these kinds of debates are tough because, you don't have, the time I had to kind of debunk the stuff that Jimmy George was bringing up about the myocarditis stuff. It's hard to do that in the, this is why these debates suck, is that you can just kind of push some bullshit and it takes 10 times as much work to debunk it. And so that's always annoying. Antibiotics will change your biological sex. 100% fact. Antibiotics. How many boosters are you going to take? I mean, people get flu boosters every year, so I don't know what the big deal about taking COVID boosters would be. People take flu boosters every year, dude. Pretty common thing. Dude, fuck Jimmy Dore. People should start following the political vigilante. I wonder if he got any backlash amongst his audience for the stuff that he said. I'm definitely very curious. I want to check that out. I'm gonna check his social blade, see if anything changed. Oh shit, yeah, he did get a bunch of backlash. I fucking knew it, dude. I fucking knew it. Yeah, much props to Graham Elwood, dude. He's one of the only ones I've seen. He's definitely one of he's one of Jimmy Dore's, I would say, like his I would call him minion, I guess. But he's shown that he's more down to, stand up for himself. But again, this is what happens when you say something bad about Jimmy Dore's. This is what happens. It's minus 600 subscribers. It happened in the last week. I'm assuming this is because of that. That's what I'm assuming. And if you look at the detailed stats, I mean, he wasn't really losing that many subs. And then all of a sudden, fam, there goes 500 subscribers, 600 subscribers. So it's like, this is what happens. This right here, see these reds? These reds are what happen when you're one of Jimmy Dore's channels, and then you turn on him. You say anything that's even slightly critical, that's what's gonna happen to you. Oh man, but yeah, I have a new respect for Graham Elwood. I don't agree with really, I guess, mandating the vaccine like a hard mandate, but this is what happens when you say something that challenges the lefty god Jimmy Dore. I mean, look, you can see it right here, dude. This is what it is, right? This is what it is right here. Hey Leslie, thank you for the 10. I appreciate that. I've been to Slow before on a PCH trip before, Pacific Coast Highway trip. So appreciate the 10. Thank you so much. Although I would say I wasn't particularly fond of the area personally, but that's not necessarily an indictment on the area. But thank you for the 10. I really appreciate that. Watch some of RFK Jr.'s interviews. What's the harm if you're so confident in your opinions? Yeah, I mean, he seems like a complete bunk dude, but I'm going to follow whatever 98% of the scientific community is saying. I'm not going to believe RFK Jr. I don't even know who RFK Jr. is. Who is RFK Jr.? But honestly, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter who he is. Even if he was a top doctor, I wouldn't care. It doesn't matter. I don't care what a doctor says. It doesn't matter. What I care about is what the scientific community, 98+% of people, and the data says. That's what I care about. The data consensus, the analysis based on 98+% of the scientists. If you got like the greatest doctor ever, I could not give less of a shit. It does not matter. I don't even think RFK is that. I mean, what is RFK? Right, like a dude masturbates in his basement, maybe, is what I'm guessing, kind of like Jimmy Dore. It doesn't matter. You could take the top doctor. I don't care. It doesn't matter. That's not how science works. You don't base science based on one guy's opinion, regardless of how, super qualified they are. He's a Kennedy. It's like, wow, congratulations. He hit the sperm jackpot. His family died, like, every way. And, he's lucky sperm. I don't know, like, doesn't mean shit. You are a gift to the pharmaceutical companies. Oh, God. He's a politician. Science is based off of repeatable results. He eats Cheetos in his basement. He whacks off in the shed. Whose social is that? This is Graham Elwood's social right here. This is Graham Elwood's social blade. And so what you can see is all these reds. You see all these subscribers that were lost in the past 7 days. You see this right here? This is what happens when you criticize, their daddy, Jimmy Dore. This is what happens to you. So beware, if you're one of those channels that's looking to leech off of Jimmy Dore, just know that eventually, because I believe all of the channels that want to be Jimmy Dore minions, whether it's the Vanguard or Jackson Winkle or whoever it is, you're going to end up eventually disagreeing with Jimmy Dore if you're not completely insane, which, I believe in a lot of people doing that. Eventually, when you disagree with him, this is what's going to happen. People, like, who knows how many patrons or memberships he lost as a result of what he said.